Hey guys, it's Cassandra from Beats to Live By. How are you doing today? So good to be here on this. It was a sunny Friday in Jackson, Michigan, but now it's a little clouded over. You guys get to see a little bit of my bead mess here. We're not working with all those beads. Um, we are going over this viney pattern today. And I can't remember. I think I just called it a viney rope, perhaps. Looking around, viney earring or rope pattern. I'm like, where would I find my title that I gave my project? So the reason that we're using multiple terms for this is because there is going to be the opportunity to do more than one thing with this piece. So just over here trying to get my lighting a little bit more directed, but we are going to talk about specifically how to create the vininess, just make up words all over the place here, of this rope. And in this particular case, I made an earring. Fun story. I was getting my beads out and I have no idea where this specific color of this leaf, this periwinkle color, has escaped to in my bead clutter. My desk is not as messy as it could be, so I'm really perplexed. But either way, we're going to be making an asymmetrical pair of earrings. I've got another leaf in a different color here. So the leaf is not crucial. You can use any kind of drop bead. I'm going to give people a minute to get on here, but we'll go over the supply list while we're hanging out either way. So for an earring specifically, you do want some kind of a drop bead on the bottom. You could use a bead that would be center drilled down the middle, but you would attach it a little differently. With this, you just go around with a loop of beads on the bottom side. So we've got like all the sizes of seed beads, 15s, 11s, 8s, and 6s, but the majority of what you're using are 11s and 8s, and then the 15s and 8s and 6s are pretty much all tied up in these little mini chevrons. The little arrow-shaped beads are one of our new 2-hole beads from our curated collection subscriptions. So we're really excited about those and having some fun new uses for those. I get these pink beads off my tray, off my beading mat, because we do not need those beads. If you're out there, say hi. I know it's not my usual time. My Wednesdays have been intermittently busy, but we do have a tutorial scheduled, or just a bead party really, with our friends at Softflex next week on Wednesday. And then I've got an exciting announcement about our date in we have at the end of May with our friend Deb Floros. So make sure and stay tuned to our social media and other places to get all the info on that stuff. I am cutting myself a yard of thread roughly for one of these earrings. We'll see how much we have left over at the end. It's been a minute since I made this sample, and sometimes I take notes, sometimes I don't when I'm working on new projects. So there's a few things like that sometimes get left unspecific until I do the video tutorial. But I know a yard will be enough. It just might be a lot more than you need. So you might need a yard for 2 earrings. You might need 2 yards for 2 earrings for a pair. So that's the part I'm not sure about. So we talked about the mini chevron and the seed beads and your bead at the bottom. I'm using a 10-pound beading thread. I really love Wildfire because you can get colors that blend in really nicely with your beads, and the 10-pound weight is appropriate for a project like this. And when you're working with the 2-hole check glass, there's a lot of potential for sharper holes. So it's helpful to have a slightly heavier thread so you don't have to worry as much about breakage. But I've got a 12 needle, a size 12 needle here, and If you are looking for any of these items and more, you can shop for supplies at our website at beadstoliveby.com. And we carry a lot of the things we're sharing here today in person as well. We have a brick and mortar store in Jackson, Michigan, and that's how we got our start. And then we started to really focus on utilizing e-commerce as well back, like 2020 and beyond. So getting my cords out of the way here. So to start this project, if you have questions along the way, feel free to chime in. And if you're watching on replay, just pause me as needed to make sure you get through the parts that you have a little bit of trouble with. But when I start a project like this, especially when I'm designing it and I'm not sure where I'm headed, I put one size 11 bead on my needle. And with this, I'm just going to leave a few inches of thread, like a 4-inch tail, because we can use our needle end for all the things we're doing. But the tail is down here by my palm, and my needle, I'm going to take back through my bead this direction. So I started on the side the tail's on and working the other way, because when you do that with your, especially the smaller the seed bead, the better. It creates that little loop. And then when you pull that, the bead will hold your other beads and keep them from falling off. If you pull with your fingers, you will be able to pull this off. It's not knotted. It is just held by tension. So that has a little thread wrapped around the outside. That's all that's holding it in place. And that's how we're going to start this. So for this length earring, the beaded part is about 1 inch long. And we've got every other bead is an 8 and then an 11. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the size 8s. So the beaded part is an 8-inch or is a 1-inch piece. And then we've got the dangle on the bottom. So you have to take all of that into account to determine the total length for what you're comfortable wearing. I would make these even longer, and I might, since I'm working with a different color leaf anyways, I might do that today, even though I want to get through the whole tutorial. But in the shorter version, that's 7 beads, I think was what I said for the 1-inch version of the vine. So similarly, if you're doing like a bracelet, you're going to want to make something that's very comfortably loose for the total length. And you want to include what the clasp adds in that measurement, because as you're beading this project, you are going to probably see a little bit of shrinkage. It's going to be more obvious with a bracelet because you've got more length to remove length from, if that makes any sense. So like the 1-inch piece, like we might see a 1/16 of an inch in shrinkage, but your total length on an 8-inch bracelet, let's see if my math is correct, would be maybe close to a 1/2 inch in that case. 1/16 of an inch for every inch. If anybody is out there at any point, feel free to correct me if that's incorrect. And if it's correct, please send me a cookie because I'm very proud of myself. I hadn't thought through that ahead of talking about it. So doing that math on the fly was like just one of those moments where you're like, I think I know what this is, but maybe I don't. So I'm going to make this a little bit longer because I think that this combination I'm doing is going to be a little bit more of a statement earring. And I might even switch up the colors a little bit. Does anybody, oh, no, nobody's live right now. Everybody's getting out of work and picking the kids up from school and all that. But I guess my whole point in saying that is that I won't wait for somebody to respond. However, if you're out there watching and you haven't already guessed, these are the April colors from the curated collections subscriptions. Both the seed beads and the 2-hole beads are ones we're working with. Once you start with an 8, you stop with an 8, and your 11s are in between. And once you get the length that you're looking for, you're going to add an appropriate amount of seed beads. I'm using 11s at this point with your drop to create that attachment. So I've got 5 11s, and these leaves are apple or apple blossom leaves um, from our Czech Republic Prague trip section of the website. That's kind of a mouthful. If anybody needs a link, you can always feel free to message me. But these seed beads and the 2-hole beads that we're using are now available for purchase individually. And for those subscribers who subscribe to these things in advance, they get a big discount off of the individual bead prices because they get a whole package of the 2-hole or the seed beads. So I've got 5 of my 11s and a leaf and 5 more 11s. And I'm going to take that whole section and bring it down closer to my work. And that's the last 8 I added. I'm going to go back the opposite direction from where I came. And I'm going through that 8. I skip all those other beads that I just added because when you do that, you're going to create a loop out of those. Now, I think because I'm switching up colors just a little bit that I want to grab maybe just one other color of size 11 seed bead that's like close by for my rest of my project, because I want to, you don't need 2 colors of 11s, but I think I want to use a second color. Oh, this might be a nice switch up. That's a little peachier. I'm looking for like a rose with a peach tone to it, which I may or may not have like handy nearby, but we'll see. I think it'll look okay with all these other colors, but the color I'm looking for is not something that's in the, well, I should say that the color that I thought I was looking for is not part of the curated set for April, but I might have, if I have my April beads handy, which it would behoove me to have my seed beads nearby. Somehow some of that stuff has escaped me. Sorry, guys. Since I'm going to the trouble of doing a totally different combination, I was thinking maybe I would switch up another color. This is very similar to a another project that we did as far as it was a bracelet also, ironically enough, and we have that link. I shared it again recently. It's something that was in with our I made a post about our flower show that we did last week. So last week we did a live shopping event, and that was mainly focusing on floral beads. And I made a post in our Facebook group that is devoted to what people are working on either with our beads or projects that we've shared. And the group is called Beads in Progress, and I actually do have the name. I'll float here on the screen for you. But I made this post explaining and linking all of the different projects that I showed that have a lot of really beautiful floral beads in them. So that is available recently too. So today's date is April 26, 2024. And if you're watching a replay, you'd want to go back closer to like the week leading up to this to find that post. But if you're watching anytime near this, then you'll find that post pretty easily. Okay, guys, I apologize for that. I just really wanted to get some good colors to tie in my new leaf that I'm using. So we're coming out of that one size 8 there. we're going to add an 11 and an 8 and another 11. And with that all on our needle, we're going to take that down to our beadwork. And we're going to skip the last 11 we added and go through the next 2 beads. So we're going through the 8 and the 11 there. It looks like my nails were not very dry because I just chipped part of the polish off the end of my thumb. Oh, fun when you're doing things on the fly, huh? So coming out of that 11, and this is just creating a nice little texture along the vine to start off, we're going to go through the next 8. So we're skipping the 11 that's in the original center of the strand, and we're going to only go through 8s right now from that part. So when you get everything in place, and if your bottom's a little loose, you're going to go back through and reinforce that. So don't worry too much about that. But that's what your little stump is going to look like a branch or a tree stump coming off the edge there. That's pretty close up. So you're going to do that pattern all the way up your vine. So 111 coming out of an 8, you add 111, 1 8, and 111. And then you're going to go through those 11, the 8, and then the 11 closest to the center of the vine. And then you go through the next available 8 after the one that you just came out of in the center. And you could add extra beads and take beads away as you move along, especially with a bracelet. That technique would look really cute and give you even more texture in your project. But we're just repeating that pattern all the way up to the other end of the vine. It happens to be the top for an earring, but in a bracelet, start and finish end would be appropriate verbiage too. Something so rhythmic about repetitive beading, which I don't do quite as much of in these videos because I don't want to bore you guys too much with a very long video of the same thing over and over again. But when you are the one working, it is a treat to be able to just repeat your process. Oh, 'tis the season for flies and things to make their way into my studio. I can hear one buzzing around near me right now. This little kind of mauvey rosy colored 11 is really going to tie in my leaf I'm using. I'm so happy with the colors. And I loved the colors on my my first earring. They look so good with that particular color leaf. I just wasn't feeling it was quite working with this combo as much. All right, we'll switch that back over since we're not talking about the Facebook group anymore. Hey, Maria. How are you doing today? I was just hanging out here by myself. Got any fun projects you're working on right now? Are you thinking about making something with this technique? Friday night here in Michigan on this day that we are live and trying to figure out if we're gonna like go do anything or stay at home and play with the puppies. Oh, thanks, Maria. Yes. So for anyone who's newer here, as of this day in history, we have been in our new space for 5 or 6 weeks now. I can't remember off the top of my head, but we moved our retail location, our in-person brick and mortar store in March. It was actually a process that we started looking at a building back last August, and we physically moved the last of our things in the middle of March. So that's been quite the journey. Thank you for asking. We are definitely settling in. And I think more than like doing much work at the new location, past what we've already done, I am really focusing on, I'm doing like 3 events in the matter of a month in town at various other businesses and collaborating with other people, trying to get back on here on a regular basis. So that kind of stuff is like kind of taking a priority over doing much more in the new space because I felt like the move kind of overtook my life for so long and probably took me away from things that I would want to do at the business. So that is kind of where we're at with things. So many people popping on now. 4:30 must be a better time to start these videos on a Friday. Hey, Janet, you are catching me live. That is totally unheard of these days, right? And Sheila, aka Mom. Oh, sorry, guys. I feel like I've been talking a lot, and I'm not apologizing for that as much as like I'm gonna need to drink a lot of water to make up for it. So I'm gonna have to make sure that I have the right number of beads. When you add your, you know what? I just won't pay attention to it. You skip an 8 and you go through every other 8 when you're adding those chevrons. And I'm just gonna show you that now and not worry about trying to count out any specific pattern for that. So we just won't worry our pretty little heads about it, right? And I need one more bead in here. I think this is just going to be a more soft, romantic set of colors. There's Lois. Lois is a friend that hails, that's not the right, hails from the Jackson area and lives nearby. So she gets to visit us in person, and we're lucky to have her so close. I know there's probably a lot of beaders out there that don't get to visit bead stores in person, and it's really a shame. And I think I'm going to do a loop of 15s. I'm going to do 6 15s at the top of this project. And this is how I'm going to attach my ear wire. I did 4 11s on the, oops, gosh, I'm caught on my tray. There's 4 11s attaching my ear wire. That was barely enough space to get my ear wire through that. So I think the 15s will, because they're smaller, they leave more space at the middle of the loop. So I've pulled the 15s down my piece and I'm going back through that, that 8. Oh, I'm sorry, Janet. Gosh, Boise seems like it would be a big and a busy enough area to support a bead store, but I know that's not necessarily the only reason there are or aren't bead stores. Oh, Avanda, you're not late. I was early. We'll say it. That's how it is. For everybody that's joining us again, I'm going to flash or just now joining us, I'm going to flash the supply list again just so that you've got that. And if you are watching at any point, you can take a screenshot of that. I could probably drop it in the comments so you could copy and paste it. I think that would be a great help to you guys. I just had to take it away for a minute to be able to, there we go. So at this point, I'm going to drop a comment with that supply list, and that way you can just like copy and paste it somewhere if that's helpful. So for this part of the pattern, if you are going to include the chevron beads, and the reason I did this, if you look at them sitting the direction that they sit from the vine, it looks like a very abstract like tulip if you've ever seen like kind of art deco floral patterns. And we've got 6s and 8s on there, and I'm going to use some slightly different colors for the sample I'm working on now, but I thought they were just so cute like that. I was not really even planning to include these beads, but you start with coming out of an 8. You're going to string on 115 and go through this direction through one of those holes. Aw, thanks, Maria and Janet. And then I have pulled up some 8s that I think go better with this color scheme. And you put 1 8 on your needle, and then with the other beads down at your vine, you're going to go this direction through that chevron. I have so many ideas for these chevrons, or I just want to use them in lots of things. I guess I don't really have a lot of ideas yet. Now, you've got to kind of work around those other little tree stumps you've got here, but we're going to put one more 15 on our needle, and you're coming out of the 8 that my needle is at. You're skipping the next 8, and you're going to go through it would be the third 8 in your project for this first edition. And then I'll show you a close-up once I get that through. So there is, I'm going to try it. There we go. You can see all the beads this way. So only going in and out of 8s again. We've got 15s, and I've got an 8 on this one. So now we're going to do another 15. I'm going to do these all the way down my project and then decide if I want to do one more pass, because I'll explain how I did that in the first one. But we're adding a 15. We're going to go through the chevron this direction on one hole. This time I'm going to add a 6. And then I'm going to go through this direction on the same chevron. Just make sure that everybody can see it as much as possible. And so that 6 really like kind of pops the top of that chevron. The 8 is like maybe borderline too small to put there, but we're coming out of this 8 currently. So I'm going to skip the next 8, and I'm going to go through the following one. Right now we're working towards our drop, or the bottom of the earring. And I think because this is a longer piece, I might just do the one pass with these beads and make it a little bit more simplistic, but I've only got one more size 6 in this color sitting here, and I didn't plan quite accordingly. Avonda is so excited, doing her first show, a fundraiser for an autism foundation where you live. All proceeds are going to the center. That's so cool, Avonda. What a great reason to participate in something. Autism affects so many people, and there's so many like variations of intensity of the way that it affects people too. So I'm not going to try to read Sheila's whole comment, but I'll put it on the screen here because it's kind of funny. We did get obsessed with the O beads and the demi beads, and I do feel kind of a similar sort of obsession creeping up for these chevrons. Oop, trying to grab the wrong beads for my current color scheme. Nope. Good thing I'm not running out of chevrons yet. Oh. All right, and we'll get this. I feel like I'm peeking over my banners, which is the text across the bottom here. I'll pare it down a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna add another 6. So in this project, I'm alternating the 8s and 6s as I add them onto the vine with the chevrons. But with the first one, I added 8s going one direction and 6s going the other one. It really is like 6 of one, half dozen the other, I think. And it just depends too. Like with this one, I'm going to be doing more of them in like an initial pass because the vine is longer. You might see this version and go, yeah, that's what I would do if I was doing a bracelet. But for earrings, I would like, double it up because you can go back and forth a few times on this. So like with this version that I'm working on right now, I'm just going to do maybe the one pass, but I'll show you how I did the second pass with the first sample because you might want to try that. Avanda, you're so funny. It looks cute and simple enough for her. All right. So whenever you get close enough to your drop to be done with your row of chevrons, and I've run out of, so I have I'm coming out of one size 8, and then there's only one size 8 left. So I don't have enough to continue to add any more of these chevrons. And that's totally fine with me because I wanted to let it taper off anyways. So coming out of this 8, I'm going to go through any available beads in the order that I added them originally. So I am going to go through that 11 that's next to the 8. If I skipped from the 8 I'm coming out of to the next 8 with no beads on my thread would show too much. So we're just going to go through the beads and the drop. If you had a different style drop that was like drilled through the center, you would just add a stop bead at the bottom and go down and back up through that. And then I'm going to turn the corner in my project and I'm going to come out of the first 8. I'll explain why here. If you're going to do another pass with these chevrons and add more of them, you do want to probably alternate where you add them. So coming out of this first 8 would mean that you would stagger how they would lay. So in this sample, all of the chevrons added are not, like, none of them are lined up. So they don't sit in the same place along the vine. And that's because I added them on a different interval in the vine. And if anybody is having trouble with that concept, I can make a little sketch and put it in the Beads in Progress group so that you guys can kind of see where the additions would happen, like in what order on which pass you're on. But I think that the look of the vine on this earring is totally complete for me. I like the way I alternated the sizes of the seed beads with the 8s and the 6s, and going back through that loop again to either tie off your thread or add another pass of beads is really good for reinforcing that area around your drop as well. So from here, I'm just going to take my needle under the thread. So you go around the area where you're coming out of the beads, and then you go through the loop that you create there. And you just have to be careful as you pull back down, especially when you're going around an entire project like that your knot sinks into the same space where your thread's exiting. I'm going to pull tight there. And I'm going to do one more. Now, the drop that you're using needs to be weighty enough to pull the end of the earring down a little bit. You wouldn't see a good kind of drape to this if you had too small of a drop on the end. And I think it needs to stand up to, the drop needs to be big enough for the vine itself too. So Avonda said, oh goodness. I don't want to be anywhere where they don't wear jewelry, Avonda. I definitely want to always live someplace where people prefer to wear jewelry. I love wearing jewelry. I have too much of it not to wear too. Oh, I'm so excited. This is going to be such an elegant earring, I think. The length of it and everything. And I like the way that the colors got mixed up a little bit. It didn't start off as my plan, especially since I thought I was going to use the other color drop leaf, but here we are. And then I'm just threading the needle at the other end of the project, just that it's a tail thread. And I'm going to go backwards through that stop bead. There's that 11 that's up at the top. You could pull it off with your hand too. I forgot it was there, to be honest. I want to keep it real with you guys. I do not want, don't want to ever pretend like we don't just kind of fly by the seat of our pants around here sometimes. So that thread was coming out of the size 8. So I'm going to go through my 15s and reinforce that area where the ear wire will go. And then I can go down through my first 8 and some beads. I just need to tie a knot somewhere with this. So I'm going to go up through the 2-hole area. It's the same process as what I just showed you on the other end, but you have to just work with the tail, which is shorter. So you have to leave yourself enough room, but I don't want to waste too much thread on a tail. So thank you, Maria. I appreciate that. I'm going to pop the ear wire on there and show you guys. Getting ready to reorder more of these thread cutters. If you guys don't use these, let me know if you'd like me to list those on the website, because they are our absolute favorites. We love them. So I think I want this to face this direction here, which means that if I always end up putting my, without a doubt, oh, and I've got my leaf backwards anyways. Okay. So we'll just say that when you have to feed it through from the opposite end, I have a hard time remembering how I need to put it on my, and I mean, your leaf will probably flip around a little bit anyways. Not all drops have a front and a back. This one happens to, but Janet has 2 sets of the thread cutters. Oh, thanks, Avonda. I appreciate it. Yeah, this is a long earring for some people. You can make it any length you need, um, and just kind of be mindful of the placement of your chevron beads if you're working with those. But we've got some fun colors of them coming to you over the course of the next couple of months and maybe beyond. I kind of want to use them all the way through the end of the year because I want to have all the colors. But that is our tutorial for the day and for the shorter version with the second row of chevrons because I wanted a few more in there. And I think the fuller look is more appropriate for that shorter version too, or with a bracelet if you wanted your bracelet to be a little fluffier looking. So just a reminder to anyone who's watching afterwards, because I know everyone that's here live knows that they can shop on our website for all these products. But our website is just our business name. It's beadstoliveby.com. And I really appreciate you guys being here, whether you're here live or watching in the future. I hope you have so much fun and gain lots of inspiration from our videos and our beads. And Ivana says, yes, please, more chevrons. Oh, thanks, Janet. I can't wait to see what you do with the inspiration. Janet's very prolific and very often puts her own spin on things. And I just love watching what everybody makes with their projects. So please, please post and watch our social media for the started to tease the fact that I'm getting ready to do another live with Deb Floros of Deb Loves Jewelry Designs in May. And we will be doing a little challenge leading up to that event. So you guys just keep an eye out for that. And I hope you all have a lovely rest of your weekend. Maybe go do some shopping. Thanks so much. Bye.